Who would have thought that our friends over in Europe are dealing with the disease of wokeness just like we are here in America? Here in America, we tend to have tunnel vision. I can't tell you how many times in my life people have told me that I live in my own world, that I only see what's going on with me. Most Americans are like that. We only see and care about what's going on here in America. We don't pay attention to the sports and the politics going on in the rest of the world. We don't care. So when I saw this story last night, I wanted to bring it to your attention. Now, for transparency purposes, I know nothing about European soccer. Hell, I know nothing about American soccer. I don't know the players. I don't know the coaches. The only reason I know some of these teams, we have a lot of players over at the sports book that bet on soccer. That is the extent of my knowledge. But the woke politics that they're dealing with in Europe is the same sickness that we are dealing with here in America, which just goes to show you this is a global pandemic. One of my viewers in Brazil, he tells me they deal with the same sickness down there too. This is a global problem. Earlier this week, before the game between Millwall and Fulham, the players pulled a Megan Rapinoe. They got down on their knees, not to say a prayer, not to pick something up off the ground, not to tie their shoes. They got down on their knees to protest against inequality and racism. My two favorite myths. And when I call these myths, I know racism exists. I call it a myth because racism isn't nearly as big of a problem in America anyway that the far left like to claim it is. It is a tool they're using to further their agenda. The players kneeled in solidarity in our fight for social justice. And the fans over in Europe booed the hell out of them. Somehow, Gary Rowett, manager of the Millwall Soccer Club, he's getting blamed for not condemning the fans for booing. Because that would be such a good business practice. Condemn and alienate the people who are paying your salaries. What a great idea. Perhaps the media in Europe should ask Adam Silver in the NBA how that strategy is working out for them. They ostracized their fan base last summer. Half their audience decided they didn't need the NBA anymore. Turns out the NBA needed its fan base far more than the audience needed the NBA. Not only did Gary Rowett not condemn the audience for booing, he actually condemned the players for kneeling. He said they needed to find a more positive way to unify people, that kneeling is divisive. He said it's creating a divide, an unnecessary divide in soccer. And that divide is between the players and the audience. Which, if they continue widening that divide, you're not going to have to worry about it anymore because you're not going to have an audience to deal with. Gary Rowett also said that they needed the authorities to help the players find better ways to unify everybody. That's where he lost me. I was 100% with him until he said that. The damn authorities or the politicians, they are why we're in this predicament to begin with. I don't know how politicians are over in Europe, but if I had to guess, they share the same mentality with the dumbass politicians here in America. They have no interest in unifying the population. They know if that happens, they lose their control. They lose their power. You look at history and how dictators rise to power, always happens the same way. Dictators cannot rise to power with a unified country. The quickest way to topple a country or a system of government is from within. Think about times America has been at its strongest, its most unified. During and after World War II, during the 90s, immediately after 9/11. We were all unified around a cause. The times we've been the weakest, Vietnam. Right now, 2021, when the country's divided. After Gary Rowett made his comments, naturally, he caught some backlash. A former player manager spoke to the media and said that he was disappointed Rowett didn't condemn those bastard fans. How dare he not be woke? The dude said the messaging couldn't be any clearer about what kneeling represents. It's the fight against racism and discrimination. It's that simple. No, dude, it is not that simple. Kneeling for the national anthem has nothing to do with racism or discrimination. That's what politicians around the world want you to believe. And because you clearly lack the ability to think for yourself, you took the bait and you believed them. The manager of Burnley, Sean Dyche, he recently was asked about fans booing the players who kneeled, and he said you can't control people's lives. That's really what these demonstrations at sporting events are all about. Controlling people's lives. The athletes that demonstrate, they don't know that. They think they're taking a stand against racism and discrimination, inequality. But the movement has nothing to do with any of those things. It's about the government having complete control, kind of like they do in China. All these political leaders around the world, they look to China as the model of how government should be run. My thing is, if life in China is so great, how come so many Chinese people are fleeing to America? I don't see millions of immigrants climbing over walls at the border of China trying to get in. I don't see millions of people begging for political asylum to get into the country. Why? Because life in China sucks. The government controls you from cradle to grave. They tell you how many children you're going to have. They tell you what you're going to do for a living. They tell you where you're going to live, where you're going to work. God forbid you have a COVID outbreak over there. You'll be locked in your tiny apartment that the government gives you until they tell you to come out. If you decide to leave your apartment on your own volition, they'll whack you. Speak out against the CCP? You obviously don't have an interest in living. I don't know about you guys, but that lifestyle sounds great to me, doesn't it? Oh, it just sounds so wonderful. I just love someone I don't know telling me what to do, making every mundane decision for me. I mentioned the other day that we need more athletes to take a stand against this agenda. Fortunately, we are starting to see it happen with more regularity. Now, I'm not going to give Gary Rowett full credit for taking a stand. He kind of did, while still kind of supporting the agenda. He's on the fence, really, but at least he had the balls to speak publicly against kneeling and not condemn his own fan base for booing the players. That's a little bit of progress. I think a lot of these coaches and players are getting tired of politics and sports. I believe most of them want to get back to football, basketball, or in this case, soccer. They are tired of answering media questions about racism and social justice. What the hell does that have to do with soccer? Nothing. Anyway, I just wanted to bring this to your attention. We spend a lot of time calling out the woke in sports, so sometimes I like to mix it up and make you aware when coaches and players take a stand against the agenda. Let me know what you think of Gary Rowett being blamed for not condemning fans for booing and saying publicly that players kneeling is divisive. They need to stop doing it. Sound off in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe. Click the notification bell to receive all notifications from the channel. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter. I'll see you guys later.